Hey folks, welcome back to my channel, Relationship Haven. My name is Gary, and I hope you're all having a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. In today's story, OP found out his wife cheated on him with a female co-worker and then had the audacity to move next to OP as a neighbor after marrying the affair partner. As soon as she did this, karma happened immediately, and now her life is a disaster. I also have another story to share that involves a guy whose wife cheated on him with a man she had previously dated and hadn't seen in 11 years. Now, let's get into today's stories. I was cheated on in 2012 and 2013. My ex and I had started dating in 2007 and got engaged in 2008, but didn't get married until 2013. In the meantime, we bought a house together in 2012. A few weeks after we bought the house together, she started an emotional affair behind my back with another woman, a woman she occasionally interacted with at her job. I didn't find out about the affair until a year later. Around late May 2013, she and the affair partner added each other as Facebook friends and started flirting daily via Facebook messaging. The affair partner was markedly less discreet than my fiancé was, so I definitely noticed the affair partner's online presence. The affair partner was a mother of 6 children by 4 different men, and most of her kids had pretty severe problems due to a pretty terrible upbringing. The affair partner was also extremely severely uneducated, unemployed, and totally unemployable due to having all these kids to take care of. At the end of June 2013, we were finally ready to marry, and I started excitedly planning our wedding. However, my fiancée said she didn't want to be involved in the planning. She said she just wanted to show up at the actual wedding day and marry me and not have to do anything else. In September of 2013, I found out she had arranged to meet up with the affair partner in person under the pretense of celebrating or consoling the affair partner for becoming a grandmother under less than ideal circumstances. As soon as they met up, they were inseparable. They found excuses to keep meeting in person every single day that week, and it became obvious to me within the first 2 or 3 days that something was going on between them that should not be going on. She trickle-truthed me for a few weeks, but I asked her to choose between us. I desperately wanted her to choose me. Instead, she chose the affair partner. She asked for 2 weeks to make arrangements for a new place to live, and I said okay. I assumed she would move out and get an apartment alone somewhere like a halfway sane person, but no. She got her affair partner to kick out the father of the youngest of her 6 children, and then a day or 2 after the kids watched the baby daddy move out, my ex moved directly from the house we had bought together into the affair partner's house. Barely 1 week after that, so 3 weeks after calling off our own wedding, she legally married the other woman. At this point in time, I actually felt sorry for her because it was becoming clear to me that she was making an even bigger mess of her own life than she had managed to make of mine. Even though she was pretty much my worst enemy by then, being legally married to the utter train wreck of a woman she'd chosen as her affair partner was an even worse fate than I would ever have wished on my worst enemy. So although I was badly hurt by the manner in which she had dumped me, I didn't necessarily bear any major ill will. I just wanted to finish the process of getting her out of my life so I could move on and never have to see her again. Soon after I had bought out my ex's share of the house that we had bought together, the 2 of them bought a house within 500 feet of it. They moved in within sight of my own front yard, the 2 of them and the affair partner's 6 children. They decorated their front yard like the newlyweds they were, covering it with giant heart-shaped garden art, and they sat outside on their front porch together for about 16 hours a day, every day, where I couldn't avoid having to see them together. I can only imagine what horrible parents they must have been, but I know they didn't seem to spend much time at all indoors. I was absolutely certain that part of my ex's goal in moving in so close to my house was to force me to let her back into my life in some capacity. I had moved away from all my own friends and family when I moved in with my ex, and I didn't know many people other than my ex in the town where I was now living, so it would have been convenient in some ways to be able to ask my ex to do little things like watch my pets when I was out of town. And I had a strong feeling that my ex was hoping for exactly that. I also strongly suspected that at some point my ex's marriage would fall apart and she'd try to finagle her way back into a relationship with me again as a result. She'd always been pretty brilliant at manipulating me, so I was terrified that she might actually somehow succeed at manipulating me all over again and manage to waste even more years of my life than she already had. So I put a great deal of effort into building up stronger emotional antipathy toward her. I hadn't started out hating her guts when she cheated on me, but I consciously trained myself to hate her guts because I didn't otherwise trust myself to be able to resist her efforts to come back into my life in one way or another and cause even more harm to me than before. The threat of that is over now. I'm very happily married to someone else, and I finally sold the house that I bought with my ex. My ex's affair partner cheated on her and dumped her for a man. I live 50 miles away from my ex now, and with any luck, I should finally never have to see her ever again. But the anger, all the anger that I deliberately built up to protect myself from any effort she might make to come back into my life, is still hanging around. It's not so useful to me now, but it remains a black cloud over my head. It interrupts my thoughts and puts me into angry moods when I could be having the time of my life. How do you get past this? How do you turn down the volume of the long-standing rage and fury so you can be more attuned to enjoying your new life instead of wasting any more time on your old one? Wow, OP, the fact that your wife had the audacity to move next to you is shocking. I do agree with you that her moving right next to you was an attempt to win you back, and boy, did it absolutely backfire on her. I'm glad you were able to get out of that situation and have moved on with your life. Continue to work on yourself and become the best version of you. I wish you the best of luck moving forward. Let's now get into the second story for today. Well, never thought I'd be online asking strangers for help and support, but I don't know what else to do or where to turn at this point. I just found out yesterday that my wife of 8 years cheated on me a few days ago. We have 2 boys together, one almost 7 and one almost 3. We were high school sweethearts, but our emotions were too strong back then, so we broke up back then due to arguments over typical high school BS. We were broken up for 2 years total, give or take. When we reconnected, she had just left a relationship that lasted less than half of the time we were apart, and I had been celibate by choice and single the whole time. We hooked up the night we reconnected. She got kicked out of her parents' house the next day, but called her immediate ex instead of me because she said she didn't want to run back to me with the drama, etc. Understandable. I heard from her later in the day that she got kicked out, and I picked her up from his house. We've lived and been together ever since. Now, fast forward to Tuesday, July 5th. We haven't been great together lately, mostly due to stress. One day I went to work, and a little after lunch she called saying her aunt wants to keep the boys for a couple of days if possible, and she wanted to know if I was okay with it. Honestly, I don't know if it was my gut or instinct or intuition, but I didn't really want the kids to go and couldn't give much of a reason for it. I get off work after a pretty long day driving for most of it, and they were all ready to go. I wish I had sucked it up and taken them now, but I had no reason to suspect anything, and I was tired, so I said, "You go ahead, just let me know when you get there and leave, etc." No big deal, I thought. I relaxed at home and invited my youngest brother over to hang out and play a game together. She left with our kids around 7-ish when I got home and returned after midnight. I didn't think much of it, as I was under the impression she was with family and our kids for the barbecue. They had then headed home after. On her way home, she swung by a park that she hadn't told me about and cheated on me with the guy she left almost 11 years earlier, the one she had left before we reconnected. The next day, I didn't work and we hung out a little more, but I noticed she was a little more distant than normal and didn't want me touching her much. I should have noticed then that something was up. The following day, I worked again and she made plans to pick up the kids. I got off work and came home, but forgot to let her know I was heading home. I went back and saw she was messaging someone on Facebook Messenger. I then caught a glimpse of the name as she moved her phone out of sight. When I asked who it was, she said it was her aunt and then quickly attempted to hide the phone. Being together this long, we have had all of each other's accounts and passwords, bank accounts, and everything. After seeing the name again, I realized it was the ex from years ago who she went no contact with after he messaged her at 3 a.m. on Valentine's Day after we were back together a few months in the beginning. I started screenshotting for proof in case she deleted it, and it turned out they had been talking for almost a month or so. The next night, she dropped our kids off while I was trying to work out the details of her stopping by on her way to get our kids. I then stepped outside before she had a chance to pull out of the driveway and told her I would go get the boys. I went in to change out of work clothes while screenshotting as much as I could find on her phone. She then noticed from the sound of the screenshots that something wasn't right and asked what I was doing. I didn't reply at first, but then said, "So when were you going to let me know you just cheated on me?" Then came home like it was nothing, lying to my face, saying you love me and kissing me. I won't ever forget the reaction she had. No shocked look or "no, I'm sorry." No anger either. She had the audacity to ask me what I was doing on her phone anyways and that it was none of my business. That was the moment my world began crashing down around me. I took her phone to prevent any deleting or warning of the affair partner. We then argued on the way to her aunt's and she started getting physical when we got back home. It completely blindsided me, and I had never in my life cried so hard or been so angry, much less at the same time. I found out he messaged her and she actively chose to respond knowing she was a married woman. Supposedly, she had no intention to cheat, but less than a month later, she had gone through with it completely and showed no remorse or guilt until after getting caught. At this point, I didn't know what to think. It all feels very planned and like this was obviously the goal. Otherwise, why talk to him at all, much less hide it from me, for a month? Update. I should also add she has been a stay-at-home mom for 7 years or so, other than a stint at a gas station before we got pregnant with our second. She did eventually show remorse once the defensive posture was lost, and I guess she realized how huge this was. I still don't know what to do, though. Wow, what a sad story to hear. OP, in your case, the realization here is that a spouse will never forget their affair partner. You thought you had a secured and safe marriage only to find out your wife hadn't gotten over an ex that she hadn't been with for 11 years. The fact that she is showing no remorse means you know what to do. Expose her affair to her family, lawyer up, seek counseling, and go no contact. Best of luck to you, OP. Thanks for taking your time to listen to today's stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and comment below on what your thoughts are on today's stories. If there's a story you would like to share with me about your own situation or someone else's, then please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care, everyone.